Hello and welcome once again to The Blueprints. This is Canada's Conservative Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Schmale, Member of Parliament for Haliburton, Gore, the Lakes Brock, with new content for you every single Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We ask that you like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. There are ears that need to hear this message, eyes that need to see it as well. Of course, you can download the content, listen to it on platforms like CastBox, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify at your convenience. You name it, it is out there. On today's show, we are talking about, once again, rising crime right across Canada. Chaos is ensuing in our major streets and cities. We're going to bring in Tim Uppal, the Member of Parliament for Edmonton Mill Woods, also the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party, to talk about this, his private member's bill, C-381, and much, much more. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so crime, as I think we've talked about many times on the show, is rising across Canada. I don't think it matters if you're in a big city or a small town. The level of people feeling unsafe is growing, and rightfully so. This Justin Trudeau Liberals have destroyed our criminal justice system.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you just look at the numbers, that after 8 years of Justin Trudeau, crime has skyrocketed across the country in every form of crime, whether that's violent crime with guns, and auto theft. What we're talking about today with extortion, and that's what my private member's bill is on, is extortion, where extortion has gone up over 230% across the country. Yeah. And these are gangs, individuals that are terrorizing our business community. And it's all because, when you look at it, when you go back, it's because Justin Trudeau and the Liberals made it easier to get bail. That made it easier for these, repeat violent offenders, gangsters and others to get back out onto the streets.
I don't want this to show my age, but when I was growing up, in a small town, we rarely, if ever, locked the doors to our house. Yeah. Sometimes we'd leave the keys in the ignition of the car. The old joke was, if someone wants to borrow it, at least we'll get it back. Nowadays, it'll end up in a container ship to who knows
where.
Within minutes.
Within minutes, right?
Like, life has changed so much in just 8 years.
It's unbelievable. I mean, on the auto theft thing, I think the stats are like something like 40 or 50 cars per day in Ontario. So, and it's not only hurting those that lose their cars. It's costing the auto insurance industry $1 billion a year, and that's all Canadians are paying for that. Everyone's insurance premiums are going up. Absolutely. And this is at a time when people are paying more for carbon tax, more for their groceries, more for everything. And so it's already hard enough to afford everything, and now they're paying more for insurance. And
if they can get insurance, in some cases, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like around, I think, Brampton, Mississauga area, that people are having a tough time. You might get cut off after a couple of car
get cut off,
right?
or it's so expensive.
And through no fault of their own.
No, it's not their fault.
No.
It's actually Justin Trudeau's fault.
Exactly.
That all of this is happening. So there's a number of things that are happening here, but a lot of it is because of their ideological, laws that they brought in that were just soft on crime, that allowing these people to come back out onto the streets, and it's not working.
No, it isn't. Well, let's talk about your bill, C-381.
Yeah.
We haven't really took a big dive into this on this program, but we'll queue up cut one, because our leader, Pierre Poilievre, is going to describe it in the clip, and then we'll talk a bit more about it. Of course, in this clip, you'll be the good-looking guy. On our screen, it's to the right. So play cut one.
There you go.
My common sense plan, drafted by Tim Uppal, is the following. We will establish mandatory prison sentences of 3 years for any criminal convicted of extortion. We will bring mandatory 5-year prison sentences for any criminal convicted of extortion who is acting on behalf of gangs or organized crime. Not only does this mean that criminals who carry out these crimes will go to prison, but it also means that prosecutors and cops will have another tool to go after the ringleaders of these organized criminals. 3, we will restore mandatory 4-year prison sentences for extortion with a firearm. This is the penalty that Trudeau and the NDP took away. We will make arson an aggravating factor in the commission of extortion. And we will reverse catch and release. We will bring in jail, not bail. Jail, not bail. Jail, not bail for repeat violent extortionists.
Sounds like common sense to me.
It is, absolutely. Let's keep them off the streets.
Yes.
And a lot of this came about because over the last number of months, essentially international gangsters were sending businesses, right across the country, these letters or through WhatsApp messages and saying, pay us $1 million or we're going to, threaten your family, we'll do something. And it started happening. Businesses were being shot at. In Edmonton, we've had over 17 houses that were burnt down. These are new construction houses. Builders. So the builders received these letters or WhatsApp messages, and they didn't pay up, and all of a sudden their houses started burning down.
That's incredible. Something we never really talked about much.
No, right? And then so it was happening in exactly right. Like you can never imagine that this is happening in Canada.
Right.
Right. We don't think that these kind of things happen here. But what's happening is these criminal organizations are hiring. Seems like these young people, because some of the people who were arrested are young, to either set fire to houses or shoot at houses, and houses with families in them.
Yeah.
Right. Like businesses with their families are there, and these business owners are neighbors, they're members of the community, and now they're dealing with this. And what's happening is a few people are being arrested, and they're out later that day.
That's the problem.
Right. They're out,
Yeah.
and so it seems like there's no consequences. So why wouldn't you do it more? And it's making money for them. And so we have to stop
there's no consequences.
There's no consequences. So we have to bring in serious penalties. And as like Pierre was saying, that we would bring in mandatory minimum sentences that if you're involved in extortion, you're convicted for it, 3 years. If you're doing this on behalf of some kind of a criminal organization, whether that's local or international, that's 5 years. And something that the Liberals did with some of their soft on crime legislation, they took away the penalties that if you're extortion with a gun, and so that we're bringing in 4-year minimum penalty on that, and we would make arson an aggravating factor. So
right,
we this is what's actually happening in Canada. We have a solution for it, and we need to be able to implement these measures to help these businesses out.
To me, when I look at extortion in general, it mostly in kind of it impacts small business owners more than anything, right? The big corporations, well, the manager, I don't know, you don't know who they are, right?
Yeah, and they have security they can hire, they can do whatever, right?
But small business, this is another shot at small business owners.
That's right.
The small entrepreneur trying to make a better living for themselves.
Yeah, they've done well,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden someone finds out that they have
they've done
money,
well.
that they've done well,
Yeah.
right? And it's not like these businesses have all this cash lying around,
That's right.
It's usually invested, it's part of their business, it's
and they have to
capital.
compete with the big chains.
That's right.
Who have massive buying power.
And so they can't just give it away, and they shouldn't.
Exactly. They shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
In Canada,
they should be
have to, right?
helping to grow their business,
Yes.
right? This is supposed to be that safe place from around the world.
Yes.
And also, this bill will also target those that are involved in sextortion as well. And we've heard some horrible stories of young people online who get, somehow end up giving some kind of picture or something to someone on the other side who then uses that same picture and says, "You get me some money." Or otherwise, we're going to expose you. We're going to send this picture to all of your, social media contacts. And unfortunately, in a couple of cases, that's ended up led to suicide. And so this bill would bring in mandatory minimum sentences for that as well.
And just to be clear, the leader said it, you said it a few times, but I just want to be clear, even those are listening and wanted a better explanation. Like, these aren't like one-time offenders, like some 18-year-old makes a mistake. You know what I mean? Like, this
exactly.
is violent or repeat offenders, those that don't want the help of the services offered for rehabilitation.
Exactly. And this is for, and usually people who are working on behalf of some type of criminal organization, right? And this will actually allow the police to catch somebody. Maybe it's a young person. Maybe it's somebody that got caught up in this and say, okay, fine, we got you. Who are you working for? Because that's who then can get the mandatory minimum penalties, right? Because this is another tool for the police to actually be able to follow up. Because right now that that doesn't exist, and so this gives the police another tool.
Do you see any appetite on the Liberal side to take this bill on to? I don't personally, just based on their history. But they must be getting the same emails and calls my office. I'm sure your office is getting the same, especially if you have contractors that are facing these kind of threats. I'm getting them. You're getting them. I would be shocked if they weren't either.
They're absolutely, been hearing about it. But, well, I've asked questions in the House of Commons on it, and the response is those laws already exist. And they don't. They used to.
Yeah, they used
under
to.
The Harper government, there used to
be
these strong mandatory minimum penalties. Now they've been diluted under the Liberals, and so they are not taking action to address this. Very much frustrating the business community, where some people are saying, well, either we shut down our businesses because it's a threat to my family, or we move, right? Go down south, go somewhere else.
Yeah,
startup
where they're
business
going to have
somewhere
that kind of protection.
Where you have the protection. I mean, what's the point of being a successful business person
Right.
if it's actually putting your family in danger?
Exactly.
Where some lowlife gets a few people together and decides that they're just going to threaten someone and make money off of it.
Yeah, and cut into your profit margin,
Yeah.
which hampers your ability to do business, whatever it is, right?
Whatever it is, right?
To
Yeah.
expand, to hire, to innovate.
And it hasn't happened yet, but if you're just going to start shooting at houses
Yeah.
and setting houses on fire, people are going to get seriously hurt in this, right?
Yeah,
So people are
absolutely.
going to die.
And the business will close, opportunity will be lost.
That's right.
And economic activity in our towns and cities is going to be just swept to the side. And it's going to be a bunch of big corporations that are going to be left, unfortunately.
And so the businesses are saying, why don't you do anything about this?
Yeah.
Or, why isn't the government doing anything about it? And we don't have an answer for them. They're the ones that caused this, in the sense that they made the laws this way. They softened the laws so much that crime right across the country has been going up. And so we have to, we have to take over government and change those laws. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it.
And what was that stat in Vancouver? I don't have it in front of me. I probably should have it. It was like the same 40 people was responsible for like 80% of the crime.
Yeah, so same 40 people arrested over and over again, thousands of times.
Yes.
And so a lot of people will say, well, hey, what about police resources? True, right? We have to look at police resources. But if the police wasn't arresting the same people over and over again, using their time for the paperwork and the time arresting them and putting themselves at risk every time they go arrest the same person,
That's right.
they could be arresting someone else.
Yes.
Right? They could be spending that time investigating other crimes. So let's put these repeat offenders behind bars and keep them behind bars. And like the leader says, jail, not bail for them.
It's just common sense.
It is.
I'm actually surprised the Liberals didn't move on this a little faster when the Justice Minister had his car stolen a couple times. Usually,
like 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. Usually, like, when it doesn't impact me, it's just happening
but you know
to
what
the
they
little
did?
people, right? Like,
They held a summit.
Yeah,
they held a meeting, right? They invited all these mayors, they invited all these people who
Nice
came
little
here.
picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These politicians came together and they took pictures.
Yes.
And we haven't heard anything since.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
We need real action. Real action on auto theft, which we have an actual plan for that, right? Like minimum sentences for repeat offenders, not somebody who did it once. That's different, right?
Yes.
But someone who's involved in organized crime, who does this in order, repeatedly doing this. And also then we also have to invest in our borders as well.
We've talked about that for years,
Yeah,
like decades.
Like there's containers that leave this country that aren't even being scanned.
That's right.
We have no idea what's in them, right? And so we don't know what's going out. We also don't know what's coming in.
Yeah, the drugs, firearms.
The drugs, the guns, right? I don't know if you saw this video. Actually, Pierre posted it as well. It was in BC where somebody was shooting at another vehicle with a machine gun.
No, I didn't see that. I should.
Actual automatic machine gun, right? And so that's what's on our streets now. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, we have machine guns on the streets. And yet Justin is spending his time going after law-abiding gun owners.
Yes.
Right?
It's easier that way, right?
Right, it's easier that way
Yeah.
because it sounds good. Oh, we're taking
Yeah.
these guns off the street. No, you're not. There's more of them now. Right?
That's right.
It's getting worse. And those guns are, and obviously they're being brought in by organized crime. Organized crime is using them.
That's right.
And so it's becoming
why
very
wouldn't-
dangerous.
This is going to sound awful, but why wouldn't they if there's no consequences?
That's right. That's just it.
I mean, like, what is going to
Somebody
stop
gets
them?
arrested in the morning.
Yeah, they're out.
At night, and they're out the same day.
Yeah.
Right? There was an incident here in Ontario, so somebody that was arrested for extortion, out later that day, and was making a TikTok-type video coming out of the police car. Like, how infuriating for somebody who, was extorted by them, who's terrorized by them, threatened their family, and he's out later
And
that
at that
day.
point, you just call the police. You don't call them because they know the retaliation is coming back.
That's right.
If they're out by supper time,
Yeah. They know who,
you better
who
bunker
called the
down,
police.
right? Like,
yeah.
it's not going to be pretty.
No, it's this circle.
Yeah.
They're making things much worse, and it's just not safe for Canadians.
Yeah, it's just unreal how fast we've slipped in 8 years.
It's unbelievable.
And how many people are saying they don't feel safe anymore.
Yeah, you continuously hear it over and over again. It's the safety combined with not everything being unaffordable, and it really is affecting Canadians' mental health. It all ties together.
And when crime goes up, you have that many more victims. I think you mentioned it off the top. I should have dug into it more, but the victims are really the part that always gets forgotten, right? When their crime happens, you have someone who, even if it's auto theft, right? The people are asleep, the car's gone, but they can't get to work,
That's
or they
right.
can't get their kids to school, or their insurance goes up, or they can't make payments, right? It's just a cascading effect, and their lives are impacted.
Absolutely. They're impacted. Everyone else has to pay insurance premiums impacted. I was even thinking about the houses that were burnt down. Like, fine, maybe the builders are big builders in Edmonton, their houses burnt down, but what about the tradespeople that worked on those houses?
That's true.
Right? They're not going to get paid
That's right.
until the insurance company finishes their investigation and at some point decides to pay the builders. The builder can pay these trades guys, right? And the trades guys aren't the rich guys. They're not.
That's
the big
right. They're
builders.
just working.
They're just working
people, right?
Right, and they brought in. They probably paid for the materials that went into the house, and now they're not going to get paid for it.
Yeah, we all know sometimes insurance companies aren't exactly the quickest to
exactly
put out that kind of money.
Yeah,
So,
especially when it's an obvious crime.
yes.
Right. That's
Yeah.
going to take time.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, the guests always have the last word on this show. Of course, we do appreciate your time. The floor is yours. Anything you want to talk about?
You know what? I mean, it's just. First of all, I appreciate the fact that you do this and give people an opportunity to hear about what's happening, what bills we're bringing forward. I think that's really important to highlight the work of our members of Parliament. I just think that to tie it back to how quickly things have changed after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. My dad, when he first moved to this country, he'd always would say that Canada is that country where if you work hard, you can provide for your family. You can, you have a roof over your head. You work really hard, you can have nice things, right? But now there's people that are working really hard, 2 jobs, and still not making ends meet. They just can't make it. I recently met, I had taken my son to a hockey game and met a mother who had said that they now have to decide which one of their kids will do hockey, right? Because they can't afford to put both of them in. Her and her husband are working as much as they can, and they can't afford both. Like, never thought that would happen in Canada.
Exactly. So you're working twice as hard to take in half as much.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can't even, have a hard time buying Christmas gifts for your kids.
Yeah, well,
It's not right.
No, it isn't right.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. When you used to have that dream, right? You would work hard and
That's right.
you'd have enough to maybe put your kids into sports if they so wanted, maybe even take a vacation.
That's right.
Now it's
Yeah.
just kind of reserved for those that are ultra wealthy that aren't
Justin Trudeau, he's taking vacations.
Oh, what was his last vacation? $80,000
$80,000,
a night, or
right?
no, $10,000 a night or something.
Yeah.
Just out of reach
It's
for.
totally out of touch.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? If you're not impacted, if the planners aren't impacted,
Yeah.
they're less likely to act, right?
That's right.
That's why I'm
Yeah.
shocked they didn't move when the justice minister had his car stolen.
Yeah, you'd figure by then
thought
they'd
by
get the
then
hint.
It would, yeah. It
Not
would
even
be,
once. I think like 3 times.
Yeah, full-on task force, and
Yeah.
they would actually address it.
No, the photo
But
ops.
it's probably because it didn't come out of their pocket, right? It wasn't the justice minister's insurance policy
No,
that was
of course.
impacted. It just
They
went
had
through
a-
the
they
government.
had another
Canada,
vehicle
right?
later
Yeah.
that day and doesn't
Exactly.
matter.
Through the government fleet. Didn't
Yeah.
really matter.
No.
Yeah, so that's ultra frustrating.
Yeah.
Tim, we appreciate your time.
Good.
Thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on.
for having
Tim
me on.
Uppel, Member of Parliament for Edmonton Millwoods, also the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party. We appreciate his time. He's welcome back anytime. We appreciate yours as well. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this program. We know crime is impacting people from coast to coast. They need to hear this message. Not always being talked about in the mainstream media. Plus, you can tell your friends. They can download this program on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, CastBox, you name it, it is out there. Until next week, remember, low taxes, less government, more freedom. That's the blueprint.